What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the garage. I know it is a long time past due. I apologize for that, guys. I have had a very busy year this year and have not had a lot of time to get into the garage. In the time that I've been gone, we have hit 500 subscribers, so thank you guys very much so for that. That means a lot to me. The season is coming very close, and I'm sure you guys have read the title of this video, so you know what we're going to be doing. But this garage needs to get prepared so that we can start working on the car and including that transmission on the Yukon, which is the main reason we're doing that today. But first things first, we need to get this out of the way because, as you could tell, there's not a lot of room, even less up there, to get past this thing, so it's kind of becoming a nuisance. We've had a gasoline leak issue somewhere around here, don't know what it is, so I'm going to try and figure out what the leak is. We're going to try and get that fixed, and hopefully this thing works, so next time we get a snowstorm we can use it. So we're just going to pull this out, we're going to figure out where it's leaking from, why it's leaking, and fix it, and then hopefully it turns on and we're good to go. Well, I feel like that's pretty obvious what's going on here. I was told someone with mechanical experience already looked at it. They clearly missed the most obvious issue. None of the sockets I grabbed fit on this very well, so I'm going to guess this is Imperial. Because I keep grabbing metric. Hopefully this gasket's still good, but because it sat out for a winter like that, don't know if it's going to be. Well, we did not get it working. I'm giving up for now because it's not that important to me. Regardless, on to the focus of today's video, which is getting that workbench built. And that workbench is going to go right into this space right here. I do have designs drawn up for it. Those are going to be right here. We're just going to build a workbench that is going to be 40 inches tall. It's going to be 22.5 inches deep and 64 inches wide. I've designed it so that it has an overhang here, and the reason I built it with that overhang there is so that I can slide things like my jack under there. Also over here, as you can see, this is the footprint from above. The dotted line is the workbench. The workbench actually goes behind this brace. The reason for that overhang in the back is because of just the space that it's getting put in. Once again, I have to design around it. So this is what the overall design is going to look like. And the reason for the overhang at the back is because of this little lip right here on the floor. I had to pull the feet forward so that they could sit on the floor, and then we have this little lip, so it's going to overhang, and the back should touch this wall. Where this guy sits right here to back there is that 22.5 inches. That still gives me room to move around in this area without too much issue. Now, this workbench project is actually from 2019. That's when I drew up those plans. As a matter of fact, all the wood that's been sitting over there all of this time during all my videos, that's meant for that. So this is a very past due project, but really rushing it because I need a surface to work on while rebuilding the transmission. Doing it here on the garage floor just wasn't going to cut it, so we need an actual workbench in here. I expect this to be a little bit more of a build montage. We'll see how I film it. Probably going to jump in a few times to talk about a few things, but let's go ahead and actually get this thing built. So these are the 4 legs. It was 2 4x4s that I had Home Depot cut. They all should be right there. Yep, 39.25 inches tall. The surface of the table is going to be another 3/4 inches thick. This will come out to 40 inches. Hello, editing me here. I thought there was a couple things I'd need to correct in post here, but I actually got all of the information wrong. I don't know how I did that, but none of the measurements I tell you guys here are correct. I've got the 6 2x4s that I need to cut. I do need to pick the 4 best boards because what I need to do is I need to cut 3 sections that are 53 inches long, 7 sections that are 17.5 inches long. 3 boards are going to get me 53-inch sections with 2 17.5 inch sections, and then I'll need 1 more board to get the last 17.5 inch section out of. Alright, so we've got all the wood finally cut up. Yes, I know I keep changing shirts and glasses are coming on and off with contacts and stuff. Like I said, I've been very busy, I haven't had time to film. I've done this over multiple days, even though we're just this far through. What we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna take these pieces, we're gonna mock it up on the ground, and then we're going to start drilling some holes and getting these boards mounted up to this so that we can start making the frame. So as you can see, pretty basic design. I do have it mocked up now, at least on the floor upside down. How I'm going to go ahead and do this, as you can see here, the longer 2x4s come out over these right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this board with these two pieces, one of the sides doesn't really matter, and I'm going to go ahead and mock that up. Then, once I have that, I'll add on the longer section here. Once I have that frame put together, I'll add in these center pieces where they're going to go properly, fully measured out. I want to drill the holes properly. I have these, they're exterior decking screws, doesn't really matter. 3-inch, 4-inch as well, in case the 3-inch aren't long enough. Obviously though, first I do have to drill the pilot holes. So we're going to go ahead and get the pilot holes drilled up into this, and then we can start screwing everything in so the wood does not split. Alright, the frame is more or less done. I mean, the structural side of it's done. Just finished this lower part. As you can see, we didn't do a front section right there. I'll explain why that is later. As for the height that I chose for this, I basically said looks good there, and then I also slid that jug under, you may have seen. There's a reason for that. It's somewhat related to why there isn't one there, so we'll talk about that later as well. The next step obviously is going to get these cross sections in right here, all three of them. So how I'm going to do it is they're supposed to be 12.5 inches apart from center to center, but they're actually 12 and a half inches from here to the first center, and then on the other side the same thing. That made my math a lot easier, but what I'm going to do is this is a 50-inch section right here between the 2x4s, so between the inside here and the inside over there, 50 inches. So I'm going to measure to 25 here somewhere, then I'm going to mark it on both sides. Then we're going to install the middle one, and then we'll go 12.5 inches out on both sides and install the two supporting ones from that. Alright, so the frame is now fully built and it is sitting where it's going to sit. Unfortunately, there's a bit of a pitch to the floor, kind of like that to a degree, and that has resulted in this being extraordinarily unlevel, as well as I do think this was actually just a ever so slight measurement difference, and I think it's because this is just mounted higher here in this little spot than the rest of them are, because the rest seem pretty good except for that one. They were all measured out to be the same, so if it's not the floor that's doing that, it's going to be the way that this is mounted. There may have been an easier way of doing it. Now that I've done it, I think maybe I should have built the upper frame and then mounted the legs to that. That might have been the proper way. We are going to go ahead and smooth to the final step, which should hopefully not take me very long to do it all. So we need that piece of wood right there. That's going to be the surface, and as you can see, it's covered in a bunch of things. But I think I've got a solution to this. There we go. So this is the table we're going to be using. Now this was once a workbench when I was working on computers and 3D printers, when I was building those back in the day, which will explain to you why. There's these screws that run the length with this wire. This was the underside of the table, and this was so that I could ground myself when working on circuitry. Kind of broke right here. The only issue I see is we put this board in here to support it, but you could see by this board right here, this I believe is actually screwed and glued like those blocks over there are. I'm going to clean off this surface of it real quick, just get this smooth. The other side has these adhesive tiles which should come off pretty easily. I'll remove these after I've cleaned up this side. Alright, so I haven't filmed any of that, and trust me, you didn't want to see it. I thought these tiles would come up really easy because they had a very hard time staying. Some of them didn't come up easy, and you might think that those are like stray pieces of the pile. No, those are still stuck to the board. That was kind of a nightmare. So what we're going to go ahead and do, I originally wanted to use this section over here because the edge was better, but because it's harder to get them off over there and it is really messy, I've already gotten a section here that we can utilize. So we're going to go 25, 65 starting from that corner over there, and that will be our piece right there. So I'm going to go ahead, clear off this surface, measure it out, and then we'll cut it. So here it is. It's not done still, obviously, but this is the cut surface on the frame where it's supposed to be. This is still 65 by 25. I didn't end up cutting off the edges. I remeasured this just to be sure. This is actually 66 inches. I don't know where I got 64 from, but also it's possible that that has shifted since I measured, because like I said, this is a years old project. So yeah, I'm way past due on getting this done, and things may have moved around a little bit in the garage since then. But point is, I'm gonna leave it as is. I was gonna cut off the edges, trim it up a little bit, but I'm not gonna do that. So I'm gonna go ahead. You can't really sand this type of wood. You can't sand these boards too well, but I am going to do my best to clean up the edge with a sander. Then we're gonna go ahead and mount this to the frame. We'll be done. We'll have a workbench. I'll still shim up the legs, but more or less we'll have a workbench. Alright, one more costume change. I lied. I try and hide it, but I got a haircut today, so nothing I do about it, but it's just for the outro, so it's forgivable. We did finish this yesterday, and as you can see, it is sitting here. Now, it wasn't necessarily sitting level as we knew, and it was having a little bit of a shake. I did fix that. Now it's sitting extremely level. I did shim up those ends. I put a 22mm riser on that back leg and a 27mm riser on the front leg. So if you guys are curious what the difference was, it's about 5mm. It is rock solid and flat. Now, as for the one thing that I was kind of hinting to, as you guys can see, I left out a section of 2x4 right here, and the reason for that is to have this under space that's tall, and I can slide things under there that are taller than the lower support. But that brings me up to the maybe. I can take another 2x4 and I can put another surface down here to be a kind of shelf. There's a lot of things that I can store under here right now as it is. Things like my jacks without their handles, things like my jacks with their handles, toolboxes, random things in the garage that most likely will end up there anyway, fuel jugs, this guy. Oh, no, you are not sneaking your way back in like that. No one likes you. Back to the tire shame you go. But if I put the shelf there, it will change the possibilities. So it's kind of really a trade-off. You know, which one do I think is going to be better? So I figured it was best to leave it out now. And then if I wanted to, I could take the other section of wood right there, cut it out to a section right here. So I figured it would be easier to do later than to undo if I started with it. This is going to allow us to start getting other things done with the car. More specifically, it's going to be a workspace to get this transmission rebuilt. Obviously, I can't put the transmission itself on here, but I can put parts of the transmission on here. And this is what I was lacking in this garage for so long. Anyway, guys, it is so good to be back in the garage. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.